I would like to introduce you to the City of Suffolk's Mosquito Control Team. We are a proud team standing in the front lines of defense against the nuisance of mosquitoes and the potential viruses they may carry. In 2016, a new public works building was built off of Carolina Road. Mosquito Control received a brand new facility. We now have room in our laboratory for disease testing, pesticide resistance testing, new storage for surveillance equipment, new storage for pesticides, room for our fleet of trucks, sprayers, and other equipment. Before talking about what we do to help control the mosquito populations in Suffolk, let's talk a little bit about the mosquitoes themselves. Did you know that there are many different species of mosquitoes? In fact, there are over 5,000 species of mosquitoes in the world, and 58 of those species reside in the state of Virginia. Each of these species are unique from one another with different behaviors, habitats, and even their preference to what animals they want to feed on. In comparison, think of all the species of birds that exist in the world. The difference between one mosquito species from another could be as dramatic as the difference between a penguin and a bald eagle. Mosquitoes have a different life cycle than you or I do. In fact, their life stages are much more similar to that of a butterfly with eggs, larvae, pupae, and flying adult forms. Adult female mosquitoes will lay their eggs on the surfaces of still water or on the vegetation just above the waterline. When the environmental conditions are right, the eggs will hatch and small larvae will swim into the water. For the next 3 days to 9 months, depending on the species, the larvae will remain in the water, filter feeding and growing bigger. Once the larvae have matured, they will pupate. Mosquito pupae are similar to a butterfly chrysalis, but instead of being stationary on a leaf, they are able to tumble through the water to avoid predation. Once the adult inside the pupae is fully formed, it will break out of the pupal casing. Calm, motionless water is needed for this because the emergence takes time, and the adult's wings and body need to harden before it can fly away. As adults, both male and female mosquitoes will feed on nectars and other plant and fruit juices for their basic nutritional needs. However, it is only the female that will take blood meals. Depending on the species of mosquito, females may take a blood meal from birds, mammals, humans, or even reptiles and amphibians. The female mosquito needs the proteins from the blood so she can create eggs. Once the eggs are formed in her abdomen, she will seek out a location to lay them. When a female mosquito is taking a blood meal, it is possible for viruses and parasites to be transferred to or from the animal she is feeding on. Initially, a mosquito acquires a virus or parasite by feeding on a host that is infected. The virus will work its way through the gut lining of the mosquito and into her salivary glands. When the mosquito gets her next blood meal, the virus is able to infect the next host. In Suffolk, we monitor mosquitoes for West Nile virus and Eastern equine encephalitis. Both viruses are amplified in the bird populations, but sometimes mammals, horses, and even humans can acquire these diseases. Horses should be vaccinated against both viruses and receive boosters per veterinary advice. Humans should wear EPA-registered repellent with DEET, picaridin, oil of lemon eucalyptus, or IR 3535. You can also wear loose, long-sleeved, and light-colored clothing to avoid mosquito bites.
When it comes to controlling mosquito populations, conducting surveillance is the first step. We need to identify where the mosquito populations are before we can treat them with pesticides. The most effective way to control mosquitoes is to find and treat them in standing water where they are in their larval form before they hatch off as adults and are able to bite us. During the months of April through October, our field technicians are out searching for aquatic habitat that may be carrying mosquito larvae. They search ditches, woodland pools, artificial containers such as tires, buckets, and pools, and other sources holding water that can maintain mosquitoes. Water samples are taken with a special tool called a dipper, which is essentially a cup mounted on a long pole, and if larvae are found, samples are saved. Samples are put in a special plastic bag called a whirl pack and brought back to the lab for identification. Biologists identify the samples to species to better understand the threat to public health, to know what types of habitats are producing mosquitoes, and to predict when and where hotspots of activity will occur. Each technician has a specific zone that they inspect using their dipper. They sample ditches, woodland pools, tree holes, and artificial containers such as buckets, tires, or anything that will hold stagnant water for the presence of mosquito larvae. When technicians find larvae, they treat these areas with a liquid or a solid larvicide. Some of the larvicide we are using are Natular XRT, which is extended release tablet, Vectilex WSP, which is a water-soluble pouch, and Vectomax FG, which is a fine granule. Liquid larvicide can be applied to water using a hand pump spray, a 15-gallon spray tank, or a 60-gallon spray tank using a wand applicator. Dry larvicides in granule or tablet form are placed directly into breeding habitats. Technicians also eliminate artificial containers such as tires littering our public roadways by recycling them at our local SPSA dump site. Suffolk Mosquito Control offers mosquito dunks to Suffolk citizens that they can take care of their own property. Mosquito dunks are a simple and safe way to control mosquitoes in sources of water that cannot be easily emptied, such as ditches or low-lying areas of your yard that hold water, and old pools or boats that are not able to be covered or drained. Certified for organic gardening, the EPA, and harmless to fish, pets, and other wildlife, this dry larvicide contains bacteria that is harmful to mosquitoes if they ingest it. It is shaped like a donut and can be broken into several pieces to be spread out in multiple areas. Citizens can pick up a 2-pack of dunks every month at local fire departments, City Hall, Media Department, and Public Works main office, recreation centers, and libraries. Citizens can show proper identification of proof of Suffolk residence in order to pick up their dunks.
When it comes to controlling adult mosquitoes, just like with larvae, surveillance is the first step. Traps are set throughout Suffolk on a weekly basis from April through October. We try to cover as much of Suffolk as we can, setting over 60 traps every week, including some in the Great Dismal Swamp National Wildlife Refuge. 3 main traps are set throughout Suffolk, each focusing on a different species of mosquito.
The first trap is the BG Sentinel trap. This trap focuses on catching the Asian tiger mosquito, Aedes albopictus, which is Suffolk's #1 nuisance mosquito. Asian tiger mosquitoes breed in standing water in artificial containers like tires, tarps, flower pot saucers, open trash cans, and other objects typically found around homes and commercial buildings. We typically set our BG traps in the downtown area and suburban neighborhoods throughout Suffolk. These traps use carbon dioxide, the same gas we release when we breathe out, and a lure that imitates human scent. The trap sits low on the ground in order to trap low-flying Asian tiger mosquitoes.
The second trap we set is called the gravid trap. This trap focuses on the common house mosquito, which is Suffolk's primary West Nile virus vector. This trap uses a foul-smelling liquid that these mosquitoes find desirable. The mosquitoes are attracted to the pan to lay their eggs and are sucked up into the trap.
The third trap we use is the CDC light trap. This trap focuses on mosquito species found in the woods and swamp areas of Suffolk. Lots of these species are nuisance spiders that will come out in large numbers during particular times of the year. These traps use carbon dioxide and light as attractants. The mosquito will come to the trap seeking a blood meal, come close to the light, and get sucked into the chamber.
In the morning, traps are picked up by the biology staff. Chambers of living mosquitoes from the traps are handled carefully and brought back to the lab. Depending on many environmental factors, some chambers can be very full, holding thousands of mosquitoes, while others are much lighter, holding just a few. Chambers are put into the freezer to knock them down. Mosquitoes are then put under the microscope, counted, and identified to the species. The numbers and species collected from each trap will determine where control efforts will take place.
Certain species that are disease vectors for West Nile virus or Eastern equine encephalitis are combined into vials to be tested. Suffolk's mosquito testing takes place in our lab. Vials are filled with a buffer solution and ground up using a medical-grade tissue lyser. They are then centrifuged and tested using a test strip. Positive samples will show up as a second line on the strip.
We analyze the adult mosquitoes collected from our surveillance traps and disease testing to determine when and where we are going to spray. Areas that are marked to be sprayed are prioritized based on disease presence and mosquito population. Those areas that have mosquitoes with these diseases will be higher on the priority list of areas needed to be sprayed. Trucks can only spray after the sun has set, during evenings with temperatures above 50 degrees without rain or strong winds, and it will not harm people or pets. Barrier sprays are applied to the perimeter of a location to deter mosquitoes from entering an area. They are applied to vertical surfaces that surround an area using a backpack sprayer. A product called Maverick Perimeter is applied to foliage of these vertical surfaces, and once it dries, it leaves a coating of residual pesticide. When mosquitoes land on treated foliage to rest and or to get relief from the sun and come in contact with the pesticide, it kills the mosquito. From April through October, Mosquito Control treats city parks and schools monthly and special city event locations on a need basis. Maverick Perimeter usually lasts approximately 30 days.
We take every opportunity to educate the citizens of the importance of mosquito control. We use this time to explain the stages of the mosquito life cycle, explain the various habitats mosquitoes can occupy, and discuss the diseases that mosquitoes can carry. We educate citizens on the various ways of cutting down on mosquito populations by dumping and eliminating standing water around their homes and properties, also called the tip and toss method of source reduction. Mosquitoes love to inhabit stagnant water and thrive in these nutrient-rich habitats. Water can collect and become stagnant in many things, including but not limited to unused tires, children's play toys, buckets, trays for potted plants, unused wading pools, bottles, cans, and other forms of trash and debris. We encourage citizens to clean up their property by tipping anything that can hold water and toss any item that is unwanted in the trash to deter the collection of stagnant water. We participate in many outreach events, including at the annual Peanut Fest every October, Farm Days, an event that second graders around Suffolk learn about the experience of farm life, elementary school presentations, and recycling and tire amnesty drives that are held throughout the year, just to name a few. We are always interested in the opportunity to educate people about mosquitoes and mosquito control operations.
In 2018, Suffolk began implementing annual pesticide resistance testing of our adulticides. Over years of applying adulticides, it is possible that our mosquito populations may have developed resistance. This process is very similar to bacteria becoming resistant to antibiotics. Resistance testing will show us if the adulticides we are using are as efficient and effective as we need them to be. The results from these tests will provide us with sufficient data to choose to stay with the current line of pesticides or move to more effective chemicals.
Suffolk is currently looking at pesticide resistance in 2 species, the Asian tiger and the common house mosquito. Both are potential primary vectors of diseases, and Asian tiger mosquitoes are this area's #1 nuisance problem. We collect eggs of both species and rear them in our laboratory. It takes several days for the mosquitoes to hatch from the eggs as larvae, turn into pupae, and finally reach the adult stage. Once enough adult mosquitoes are raised, they are placed into jars that are coated on the inside with pesticides and tested to see if they are susceptible or resistant to the pesticide. 15 to 25 adult mosquitoes are placed into each jar, where they will be exposed to the pesticides over a span of 2 hours and monitored for time of death. If mosquitoes do not die in these prepared jars at a specific time over this 2-hour frame, then these mosquitoes are deemed resistant to the particular pesticide tested.
For more information, you can contact Suffolk Mosquito Control at 514-7609. We're located at 800 Carolina Road.